Okay, guys, welcome back to week 2 summary class. And I will be talking about the few things about Selenium WebDriver configuration and what is Selenium WebDriver, those kind of stuff. So let me quickly go ahead and open this up for you. Okay, so what is Selenium WebDriver? Selenium WebDriver is basically an automation tool that will let you interact with web pages. All right. Okay, Afi is here. Let me get her in. Okay, perfect. Okay, so Selenium WebDriver is an open source automation tool that will let you interact with web pages. There are generally 3 different flavors of Selenium that we know. One is Selenium IDE, which is a Firefox add-on. You can download Firefox and you can download the add-on, but it has very limited capabilities. It will give you the option to record a test case and run it, but it is not something that can be used in an enterprise level. It's a very, very bare minimum stuff that you can think of. It's not what we actually use in the enterprise. We use Selenium WebDriver and Selenium Grid. Selenium WebDriver is basically used in order to write Java or C# or Python code from scratch to create a framework with Selenium WebDriver framework in order to interact with web applications. Selenium Grid is basically used to run your test cases parallelly. Okay, you have to run them parallelly in multiple different nodes. So that is what Selenium WebDriver basically lets you do it. No, sorry, Selenium Grid lets you do it. So those things I will be covering up. Selenium Grid I will cover up later stage, but Selenium WebDriver we will start from today itself. How does Selenium work? So Selenium works in 2 different ways. Up till Selenium 3, whatever the document, whatever the screen I'm showing you, that is how it used to work. So basically, when you are instantiating Selenium WebDriver, what do I mean by that? So let me first set up my Selenium WebDriver in my system. It's very simple. Sorry, this is a week 3 summary class, right? My bad. So I'll just say Java project and I'll say week 3 summary class. And over here, I will go and I will say finish. Don't create. Okay, so the first thing that we have to do in order to configure Selenium WebDriver in this project is basically add a Selenium WebDriver jar file into this project. What is a jar file? I told you already. Jar file is nothing but Java archive files. Somebody or a team of people have created a Selenium WebDriver library for us so that we can create some programs with it. We don't want to reinvent the whole wheel. We just want to use somebody else's code and build on top of it. Okay, so how can we do it? So we can very easily download the Selenium jar file. I have already downloaded that. Once you do it, it's basically done from selenium.dev. Selenium.dev. If you go to that place, you can download it from this downloads section, and you can say latest level version 4.4.0. You can do the download this, and you can keep it anywhere in your system, and then you can simply attach it to your project. How do you attach it to the project? It's very simple. Right click on this, go to properties, go to Java build path, and if you have followed my video, I have shown this to you already. Go to libraries, under class path, say add external jars, and then you add the jar file. So I'm using Selenium 4. So I'll just say okay and say open, and that's how my Selenium 4 jar file got attached to my project. Now, once I have this attached to my project, now I can go ahead and perform any development on top of Selenium WebDriver. That is the whole idea. Okay, so I'll go and say apply and close. I'm done with that. Now you can see that I'm going to create a new project here. I mean, new class here. And this new class will be something that I'll be creating only for Selenium WebDriver. So, I mean, to write some Selenium WebDriver test cases. So I'll go and say new package. And let's name this package as Selenium tests. And I will go and create a new class here. Okay. And let's say Selenium testing, something like that. And then with a main method, because I will be running it from right in this class. So I'm done with that. Good stuff. Within this main method, I am going to instantiate a Selenium WebDriver instance. Okay. For example, I want to work with Chrome driver. I want to work with Chrome driver. What do I need? I need a exe called Chrome driver exe. Okay. So Chrome driver.exe is one file that I need along with Selenium WebDriver. So far we have attached Selenium WebDriver jar to our project. Now I need Chrome driver exe also attached, not to my project, but somewhere in the system, so that I can perform some action. For example, the first thing that I would like to do is I would like to understand what Chrome version do I have. So Chrome version, it is very, very important that you understand what Chrome version do you have. Let's go to help. Let's go to about Chrome. And that's where it says 104051. That is the one that I have. Now I will go back to my selenium.dev. And then I will go back to downloads. And then if you just scroll down a little bit, you can find a section which is called browsers. If you open this up, you will find all the browsers Selenium WebDriver supports. So I have Chrome, that's my current, that's the one that I'm trying to target. So I go and say click on documentation. This will lead me to another page called chromedriver.chromium.org. Okay. In this page, you can see something. Let us beta release Chrome driver 105051 and let us stable release 104051. Okay. This is the one that I am actually looking for. This is the driver that I'm looking for. So I go and click on this. I come to this particular page where I have to select the respective Chrome driver. Which one it is? It is one of these Windows guys, because my system is a Windows system. So I will click on this one. If you have Linux or Mac, accordingly you select the one. For me, I will be selecting this one. So I copy this, I install this. So I'm downloading this file here. It's done. I'm opening this guy. It's just a simple Chrome driver.exe. I can go ahead and put it inside my folder. So for example, I can go ahead and create another folder, open another folder. I'll go to C drive. I generally keep things under dev work, drivers. Yeah, Chrome driver. All right. So over here, I think this is the old one. I don't know which one. Okay, I don't care. Let me delete this. Okay, let me delete this, and then I can just put it here. All right. And then you can actually, if you want to make it specific, you can actually rename this to 104.0.51 just for your own convenience, so that you know that tomorrow, if you are, for example, tomorrow, your project, your application, is not working properly in 104.0.51, but it is working fine in a previous version. Okay, so you can uninstall, you can get your Chrome app, browser downgraded to a particular version, and then you can use a specific Chrome driver to test that. You can do that, right? So which is why naming it is a good thing. Okay, naming these drivers is a good thing. So anyway, this is the location where my Chrome driver is located. So I go and I am going back to my system, and here I'm going to add a line called system.setProperty. Okay, and then here I will add another syntax called webdriver.chrome.driver. And in this section, you have to pass on the location where this file is located. Okay, the file is located inside this one. Actually, I should be adding, this is fine. I'll go Chrome drive. Let me copy the file name. Not here. Sorry about that. Okay. So I just go ahead and copy the file name .exe. Okay, that's the exe file. So you just mentioned this. This is a location. This is basically you're trying to say is that there is a system variable named as webdriver.chrome.driver. In the system variable, you're setting the path of this exe file. That is the first thing that you're doing. Next, what you're doing is you're saying Chrome driver equals new Chrome driver. Now, this syntax that I'm writing right now, you should be very familiar with the syntax from the previous week class, that all I'm doing here is that I'm just creating an object or instance of a Chrome driver class. Chrome driver class is a part of Selenium Webdriver jar file, which I have recently attached. So I go and say import. So I imported that, and you can see it very clearly that in the reference libraries. Okay, let me show you something. Look at it. org openqa Selenium Chrome driver, right? If you look at the reference libraries under Selenium Server 4, if you go down and if you can follow this line, org.openqa MNOP, okay, org.openqa.selenium.chrome. Look at this package. Under this, there is a Chrome driver class file, right? That is how it is getting attached. Okay. So anyways, so this is the first thing that you would do to create an instance of a WebDriver. So WebDriver is something, Chrome driver is something that is coming out of WebDriver. Okay. I will explain that in a later stage. But for now, this is the first line that you want to write. And then let's run this. Just let's run this. Okay. Let's see what exactly happens with this. So run as Java application, just like that. When I do it, it says Chrome driver successfully started, and you can see a blank Chrome driver window just got launched. Nothing, no activities happening here. Just a Chrome driver, browser got launched. Nothing more than that. Now we have to understand what exactly is happening here. So if you look at the diagram, okay. So let's try to understand what is exactly happening here. You can see we have test. What is a test? The line that I wrote in the main method, that is the actual Java test. That is where you will be writing your test cases in your editor. That's the test. As soon as you executed the program saying Chrome driver equals new Chrome, as soon as you wrote this line, what happened? In the background, a server got started, REST server. Okay, REST server got started. Okay, REST server understands all different type of HTTP methods. For example, get, put, post, delete, right? These are all different kind of HTTP methods using which two two different endpoint interacts with each other. They perform some operation, they perform an update, they delete entity, okay? They get the information. All those things happens with this 4 different methods, and we call this as HTTP methods. We will talk about this in a greater detail when we learn about API testing, but it is like our 3rd month, right? But HTTP methods are very, very important. As soon as, if I remove this line, and if I take you to any page, for example, Amazon, and let me show you something. I'm not sure whether you have ever noticed this, but if you go to the Chrome console, inside this, if you can go to the network section over here. For example, I'm searching. Okay, look at this. I searched for these things already here, right? I did that. As soon as I clicked on this link, okay, this particular input box, something happened over here. What happened here over here was I made a request to one of the server that is hosted by Amazon. And this request is a suggestion request. Look at this. It's very, very, like logical things. Not in computer science, nothing comes out of thin air, right? This information was displayed to me because it understood my history of searches, right? Now you can see in the suggestion, if you go to the header, you can see in the background, I called this endpoint completion.amazon.co.uk. I contacted this particular link, and I contacted this API called as suggestions. Okay, and then this suggestion, a lot of things are happening. You see, I performed a GET request. Okay, and then you see, if you look at the response, you will see that it has given me back with suggestions. You see that? Hopefully, it will tell me all the information I'm looking for. Yeah, let me copy this whole list, and let me take you to another page called JSON formatter. Paste it here, process this. Now look at this. So the server gave me back the response in a JSON format. It's very, very important that I'm showing you here, because JSON format is the most preferable way in current times to exchange data between 2 different endpoints. Okay, this format that you see here is a very structured format. Look, there are curly braces, and then in the curly braces there are some information in a key value pair format. This is the key, and this is the corresponding value. Prefix is nothing, suffix nothing. In the suggestion, it's an array. I spoke about array. You see the square brackets? That is an array. If you open this up, look, each and every one of these blocks that you see here is a suggestion. Okay, let me just show one by one to you. If I show this entire thing, it is nothing but an object. This entire structure is a JSON format. You see, in JSON you will see things like arrays. You will see things like objects. Okay, in the object you can find things like key value pair, key and a value, and the value could be an array, and the array can be built with multiple objects like this. So each and every object will also have key value pair, something like that, and that's exactly what I'm trying to show you. This format is called a JSON format. Okay, if you open this section up, look, what does it say? It says suggestion type, keyword suggestion. We don't see that. Amazon database, this is for Amazon database. Okay, we are not bothered about it. As a user, we are not bothered about it. Type past searches. Yes, you see that? I search for it, so it has given a type to it automatically. If you look at it, right, if you look at these things, you will very easily understand what's really happening in this world of technology, like how these things are working, right? Look, value air fryer, it has given some reference tag. I don't know how that works with Amazon, but that's pretty much about it. So air fryer is what I searched earlier. Let's look at the other one. I searched for Samsung Galaxy Watch Sport straps for men, right? Again, right? So you can see all the solutions over here are getting listed, okay? And it is coming to us because from my endpoint, that means from this particular endpoint, the browser, I clicked on this particular input box. You see, I again clicked, it again fired the same guy. I can click again. Okay, I think there is a time limit. If I trigger it again after like 5 minutes, it will again come. Yeah, I'm clicking again, it's not coming, right? Maybe there's a time limit. So as soon as I'm clicking on it, or maybe let me do this. Okay, let me click again. Look, you see that? Every time I'm clicking on this where it is totally fresh, the list is coming back to me, and then the API call got fired. From my browser, I'm firing an API call, and database is collecting the information and giving me back in this response type. Exactly the same. Why I am taking so much time to talk about this? Exactly the same is happening with Selenium Webdriver, meaning Selenium Webdriver is, where is that? Selenium Webdriver is immediately, as soon as I instantiate the Chrome driver, it immediately creates a server for us, a server that runs locally in my system. It's not hosted anywhere else. It's locally starting in my system, okay? And then using JSON wire protocol, I am sending information. I mean, the test is sending information to the Chrome driver. Okay. For example, click on an element. That's that information. When I'm saying JSON wire protocol, it means what? It means in the JSON format, the format that I showed you earlier. That's the format that it is going to take in order to communicate between the test and the server. Okay. JSON wire protocol basically sends the information in JSON format to the WebDriver server, and then the WebDriver server will take it forward to the browser. Depending on whichever browser you're trying to interact with, for example, if you have Chrome driver, if you have Chrome browser, then you will be communicating to the browser using chromedriver.exe. If you have an Edge, then you have an edgedriver.exe. So using that, basically you will be communicating to the respective browser. And once the operation is performed, browser will connect back to the WebDriver server as a response, whether the action was successful or not. And the WebDriver will again come and get back to test, saying the success, it was a success or not. Each and every steps, or each and every action was successful or not. That is how you will be able to understand. Okay, this is exactly how Selenium WebDriver works. Is this understandable? This is very, very important question people will ask you. Is this understandable? Yes or no? Hello. Okay. Afi, understandable? Afi, are you there?
Yes, I am. No questions.
No questions. Okay.
Yeah.
Kester, are you getting this?
Yes.
Okay, good stuff.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so that's that. Let's go and clear this out. Let's move on to the next part. Okay, what is a jar file? I told you what is a jar file is. Okay, installing and configuring Selenium, that's done. Okay, this part is done. Let's move on to the next part, which is, okay, Selenium Webdriver learning. Okay, understanding. Okay. Let's go understand about this. What are we discussing here? We're discussing an HTML layout. What is HTML? Okay, we have to understand that. So HTML layout, instantiating WebDriver using WebDriver, that is done. Understanding browser console, discussing HTML tags, and a few things. Let me just check something here. Yeah, that's fine. So what is HTML? HTML basically stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is the language using which you can create a basic structure of a web page. To build a web page, you ideally need three things. Number one is HTML. That is going to be your building blocks. Okay, of the web page. Next thing is CSS, which is cascading style sheet. This will provide look and feel to the system, to the website. Okay, the coloring and everything that comes from CSS. And finally, when you are making the application interactable, right? Like when you click on a button, something happens when you click on the button, right? That kind of things can be achieved using programs or created through JavaScript or Python or C#, right? Those kind of things. So we're trying to understand what is HTML first. What is HTML? HTML basically gives you a body, as I said. Anybody can create an HTML right now. There is nothing really required for you to create an HTML page. It's very simple to actually create it. You can go to your notepad, any notepad, right? Say wisdom. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to just create a quick file here. New text document. Okay, and let's name this guy as test.html, like so. Okay, actually it is named like HTML, but it is not an HTML file, right? So I have to change that. Anyway, just say test for now. Let me open this up. And then over here, I'm going to write a simple syntax. I'll say HTML. I'll open and close the brackets, HTML. All right. This is the starting and stopping of an HTML syntax. Next, I have a section called as head. And I can close the head. I have a section called as body. And not end body, just body. And I can close the body. And finally, what I can do is I can say title, say welcome do wisdom QA. Something like that. Whatever I'm writing, it's all HTML tags. Everything that you see here is a HTML tag. All these things in a brackets are called HTML tags. Under this, I have a body, and the body I go and I can put things that I want to interact with. For example, I want to interact with an input, or let me give a span here, span, and let's say username. Okay. Span is nothing but to show some text. Then you have another tag called as input tag, and let's just give a name to it. A name equals username. I'll tell you what I'm doing here. Username. And let's close this. Input. I'll copy the whole thing and paste it. Okay, here I'll give another thing called type equals text. And over here, this is a password. And here it is password. And here the type is a password. Okay. That's that. And then finally, I can have a button. Just say submit. I'll just say login. Login. So I just created a simple page, which is going to look like, login page. Let me do one thing though. Let me add another things here called BR, which is basically breaks. One more over here, two more over here, one here, one, two here. Okay, that's good. That's the one I have added, and then I'll say file. I'll say save as, and this time I will say save it as an HTML file. Okay, just say test.html. Like so. All files, save, done with that. Let's go to test.html. If I open this file, you will see something like this. Okay, you can enter a text here. This is a password field. If you enter text, it's going to be masked, and you can click on login. Nothing will happen. Nothing is happening. The page looks awful. Just a building block got created. Nothing happens when you click on this button. Why? Because there is no program attached to it. When I click on this login button, something should be fired in the background, which is basically an authentication process. The authentication process itself is very complicated for anybody to understand, when you're learning it for the first time. So you have to understand how the authentication happens. It authenticates with a lot of tokens and things like that. And then if it is all good, then it will let you come in to see the dashboard page. But let me talk about the HTML here. If you look at my code that I've written, okay. So span is nothing but a text holder. You can hold a text like that. And you saw me creating a username. Input, okay. Input is another tag which is used for what? For like a text box. Okay. And attribute is another thing that is very, very important. For any HTML tag, there are attributes and the tags, which are very, very important. So this is a tag. And this is an attribute. Name equals username. That's an attribute. Another attribute is type equals text. Now, if you see between this one, let me actually highlight this. If you see between this one and this one, you will see everything is same except this is of type password. When it is of type password, that's where you saw that it was showing you masked letters, right? It all depends on your input. I mean, in your tags and the corresponding attribute that will make it work for you the way you want it to work, right? That's the first thing that you have to understand. If you will see this quite interesting, that this button tag that I have for button can be also used for the button action. I can also use input, and it's quite interesting to see. All I have to do is I have to say input. All I have to say is type equals submit. And if I do that, then this input, which is actually we were thinking that it's going to be only be useful as a input box. But with this change, you will see that input is nothing but a button as well. So if I am going to open this up and refresh it, and you can see here it is wrong. 1 minute, I have to change it. I think this goes a name equals to login. Let's see. Okay. Let's just see that here. Refresh. No. Wait a minute. This is a input tag. Input tag. Button name attribute. Right. So it is something different. I think it is name placeholder, is it? Let's just see. Not a placeholder. Input password. No. Email. Type number placeholder.
Change it to button. It's my work.
Sorry, change it what?
To button. The input, change it to button.
No. I know it will work with button. I showed you already it will work with button. That is not the case. I'm trying to show you with how to make it work with input and show you that different attributes are there. That is the whole idea. Button will obviously work. That's why it worked earlier. So let me stick this to placeholder. And now let's see the difference if it changes. Refresh. No. There has to be another way to do it. Input type number. Okay, sorry. This is
add the value attribute. It has value, right?
It could be value as well. Yes, you're right. Yeah, you're right. It's not a name, it's a value. That is right. Value is good. So let's go. Yes, you're right. Value. So you see that very clearly that depending on the combination of tag and attributes, okay, things can work differently, right? The same input was working as a text box and now it is working as a button, like so. That is basically HTML tag that I was trying to talk about. Just a minute. I will go back to my. Okay, so HTML layout always follows a tree-like structure. Please understand this. It is very, very important that you understand that this is a tree-like structure. Okay, you see the root of the HTML documents starts with the HTML. I showed you that. And then you have a head and a body which are in the same level. Inside the body, you can have multiple different nested components. Every page in the world is following the same structure. It's all nested components. And it's very important for us to understand this nested components because our primary objective will be to find a particular element that we are trying to interact with in that particular page. So you can think about it, there's a page and there are thousands, not thousands, but maybe more than 10,000 tags in each and every page, right? So when the page opens by Selenium Webdriver, and when we try to find a button, for example, the button is located somewhere over here, okay? So when you try to find this button, the search of this button basically starts from top left to top right, okay? It basically scans the whole page from top left to top bottom right, right? That's how it scans. Now, the point is that when the button comes in between, you have to basically give a particular locator for this button so that this button can be found and then it can be interacted with, okay, or any component, okay? So which is why it is very important for you to create a locator. We say locator, okay, in order to find this button in the whole page, okay? To find this locator, it is very, very important that you understand that HTML is a tree structure. Structure document. It's very important for you to understand that. Okay. So now what we can do is we can actually try to understand how to locate an element. I mean, there's a complete maybe 1 week of class that I can talk about just on the locator. It's very, very important for us to understand. However, we'll see how it goes today. Okay. So I'm just giving a quick demo and then we'll take a 5 minutes break. Where to find the locator is the first thing that you have to understand. So for example, let's go to Amazon. And the first thing that you will do is you will go ahead and you will right click on the page, inspect. Okay, right click on the page and say click on inspect. Again, one more time. Right click on the page and you can say inspect. Okay. When you do that, this Chrome browser console opens up, or this Edge browser, but every browser has a console like this. Under the Elements tab, that is exactly where you will try to find an element that you're trying to work with. Okay. So for example, you can see that this is the entire page inside which there is a head tag and a body tag. You can see as in when I move my mouse, a particular section of the page is highlighted. So I'm moving my mouse into the body section and the whole page is highlighted. If I, let's go to some kind of, okay, page content. Look, if I move my mouse to only this particular section, it's called div. Div stands for divisions or sections, you can think of, right? In a whole page, there are multiple different sections that you should be considering, right? So when you find that, when you hover your mouse into that particular section, you can see in the left-hand side, that particular part is getting highlighted. Okay. For example, if I want to understand the navigation, so look, I think, okay, look, this header, nav bar main, that's the section which actually holds the entire top section. Okay. Now, if I want to find a particular element in the page, for example, I want to find what is the locator of this particular section? How can I do it? I can click on this select an element inspector and put it under the component I want to inspect. If I click on this, it takes me to a section called as an anchor. It is an anchor, and it has some attributes like ID, like class, so on and so forth. And if you look into it, it is following a tree structure. So this anchor is inside a span. If I expand the span, you can see the anchor. If I collapse the span, the anchor is gone. This span is inside div. Okay. If I collapse the div, it's gone. If I go to the parent of this div, so you can see this very well. Let me highlight it for you. Where is my highlighter? Yeah. Okay, you can see this very well. Like this section, this div, and this div are in the same level. Okay. They are in the same level. These two guys are in the same level. The parent of these two guys is this one. And then again, this one is the grandparent. You understand? Everything in HTML is in a tree structure. You have to highly consider it and try to create a locator so that you can locate it. For example, in this particular situation where I want to just get the locator of this particular element, which is this guy here, rather this whole section, you see this whole section. This whole section is what I'm concerned about. I want to completely get the text of this whole section. If I want to do that, then my locator will be very simple. Why? Because there is an anchor and there is an ID attribute. Generally speaking, in a web page, if you see an ID as an attribute for a tag, then it's quite likely that the same ID won't be found anymore in the page. Any other tag will not have the same ID. Okay, and you will see that. But if you don't have an ID, for example, I don't know, maybe let's see about this one. Oh, there's an ID here. Okay, let's see about this menu. Okay, good stuff. You see this one, div class nav left. That's the menu, right? There's an anchor. Okay, there is an ID here. Okay, that's cool. What else we can think of? Okay, let's see about these ones, right? Okay, this image. Do I have an ID here? I don't have an ID here. I have a div. I have an image inside the div. img means image. I have a div and an image. And above that, there is an anchor. And above that, that's a whole div. You see, in this whole div, there are 4 anchors, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And each one of them, they don't have any ID. Okay? So in this kind of situation, you would like to create a locator. A locator that you will be creating is using something called as XPath, which we will talk about it, okay, in details. So let's try to create a basic locator, as I was saying. This one. So the ID is this. So you can create a locator on your own only with this much information. Anchor ID nav global location pop over link. I can click on this, get the value out of it, like so. and then I can hit Control F in your keyboard under this section only. Control F. When I do that, you see this small window, small search window opens up where you see it says very clearly, find a string, selector or XPath. This one over here, look. Find a string, selector or XPath. This window, this search box is where you will like to put an information or like to put a locator. So for example, if I want to create a locator, then you would do like this. You will say dot means you're starting the search from the very root of this page, that's HTML. Double slash means in the whole page, keep on scanning child after child after child after child. Okay, double slash meaning keep on scanning after one child after other child until you find an anchor which has an attribute called as ID at ID equals to the value like so. This is one way of writing a locator for that anchor. Okay. For example, if I want to go to this particular page, actually, you know what? This will fail when I run the program. Why? Because when I run the program, the Selenium WebDriver will launch this particular application in a incognito mode. Let's say, where is this over here? New private window, right? If I go to amazon.co.uk, okay, there is this section called Republic of Ireland. I don't know if this will work. Let's do the inspect. Let's say Control F and B. Yeah, it does work perfectly fine. It does work. Okay, it just gives you this answer other than the actual name and location. It gives you a generic location. Okay, so from this we understand this link will work anyways, or this guy will work anyways. So what I can do is I can copy this guy. I can go back to my program. Over here, I can first and foremost write driver dot get is a method inside driver object. And over here, I can say HTTPS amazon.co.uk. And then I would do what? I'll say driver dot click. Okay, sorry, driver dot find element by dot XPath. Within this section, you're going to add in that XPath that you have created, and dot click is what you will be trying to do. So this is the syntax that we are performing. Driver dot find element by XPath. This is basically trying to find the element in the page. Once the element is found, then you're performing dot click, not clear, dot click, like so, right? And the page will open. So let's run this first, and then we'll see what happens, okay? Perfect. It clicks on it, and it shows me this. I can enter, sign in to your addresses, or I can enter a UK postcode. I mean, we don't have any Amazon warehouse. I think they are opening up recently. I think they have opened it, but we generally get things from UK only, right? That's the situation with XPath. Now the point is, because I already have ID, because the anchor tag has an attribute called ID, instead of writing this find by element in this particular format, I could have written it just like this. So take the ID out, change this whole thing to dot ID. You see, there is another method called ID, and then pass on the ID here, right? Like this. If you already have an ID for an attribute, also one thing you have to understand, if you see an ID which is not making sense, meaning an ID which has like gibberish characters or some kind of an alphanumeric character, then do not consider that ID as your locator. Okay? Because that is a part of dynamic ID. You will see some of those elements where you will find that there is an ID, but the ID is having a value like an alphanumeric character or some gibberish numbers, right? That is not what you should consider as an ID, because it is going to be a dynamic ID. When it's a dynamic ID, what will happen is when you relaunch the page, that ID will be changed and the test case will not work. So our whole idea behind creating a test automation, a test case, automated test case, is that our test cases are stable and it is not failing because some web element just failed, some web element locator just failed. So it is very, very important for us to get a solid understanding of how to create locators. Because if you're not able to understand how to create locators, then that's it. You will not be able to succeed. You will not be able to write your test cases for a longer run. Your test cases will keep on failing. So if you see any ID with a name like this, which is like making sense, then there is a 99% chance that this ID is not dynamic. And which means that you can straight away use it as by.id. Instead of writing an XPath, you can just say by.id and put the ID in. But if you don't have any ID whatsoever in the attribute or for the tag, then that is where you have to use by XPath. And you have to know how to create XPath, because XPaths are not easy to understand. You have to practice it. You have to practice it in multiple different websites to understand how they have built the website. And then that's where you will get the whole understanding. Just don't sit with only Amazon, because I'm showing this to you. Try with other websites that you feel like, any website you feel like, okay? And try to find buttons, try to find input boxes, try to find links or divisions, try to inspect it and find the element. It's very, very important that you spend time with it. You got to be proactive. There is no shortcut to it. It's an experience. You have to get that, as simple as that, right? Now, what I'm saying is, okay, so I said everything. So now, if I run this program, you will again see that it will exactly work the way it worked earlier. Just like that, okay? So that's where I am going to take a break now. Once we come back, we'll see what is the next thing to discuss. Let's see. Different tabs and dev tools here. We will talk about that. Understanding the HTML tags. I've given you some idea. Understanding attributes. Okay, that's fine. Finding an element. I showed you that. Inspecting an element. I showed you that as well. Creating a basic automation scenario. We will do that. And that will be a good understanding for you. So once we are done with that part, then we will see what else we have to do today. Anyway, I'll take a 5 minutes break. We'll come back and resume from here. Thank you so much. If you have any questions by then, just collect it once I come back from the break. Let me go through it. Okay. Thank you so much. Actually, you can just, if you have the questions in mind, put them in the chat so that I can come and address them. Okay. 5 minutes. Okay. So, any questions so far with whatever I discussed? Yes, no, nothing.
No question.
Bongi, any questions?
No questions.
I'm not able to hear you. Why?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Sorry, no question.
Okay, good. So then we will try and understand things like the inspector tool. Okay. There are a few. So in the console of any browser, there are these tools that you can, or tabs that you can ideally work with. Number one, let me show you about docking mechanism. So you can dock your console on the bottom, like so. You can dock it right hand side, left hand side, or right hand side. That's exactly what I was doing. Or you can even dock it out like this. So it basically comes out then. Okay. If you have a 2-screen monitor, you can keep this in a different page. Okay. Whatever is good for you, convenient for you. I'll dock it back to the same page again. Right. That's the first thing. Second thing is elements. One more time, in the element section, you will be finding your experts. If you do Control F, you will see this browser, this particular section, find by string, selector, or expert. That's exactly what you're going to write your locators. We'll talk about that more in details. Then we have console. Okay. In console, there are things that are coming out from the application. We don't really bother about this. You can take this out. In console, you can write some kind of a program, like a JavaScript program. For example, I mean, it's not really required in terms of Selenium Webdriver, but I'm just showing you. For example, if I say, let name equal Solvik, right? It is not. It is creating a problem because I didn't make this as a string like this. Okay, and then if I say console.log, and if I just say name, then you can get the value as Solvik. So it is kind of a code editor, like a short code editor kind of thing. Okay, so from our testing perspective, we don't really need that. I'm just showing you that it's there, and developers highly use it. Sources are the location. Basically, it shows you about the index file, the main application index file. Okay, the application information mostly. We don't really bother about this part as well, so leave it. Performance. Okay, if you want to understand the performance of the application, how the application is performing right there at this moment, we can do record, and we can wait for like, we can do one thing, we can stop this one. What I will do is I will just say, okay, let me clear this out. Let me start record and refresh this page. Okay, so it's refreshing the page, and then it is recording. It's still refreshing the page. I can stop it here. Okay, now you can see this record tab can give you some kind of a performance statistics of this particular web page, like how this application is really performing. Okay, so let's processing profile. Let's wait. Look, it gives you some kind of an idea, like during this time how the page was looking, and then slowly, you know, for each, if it's a large component, it will show you. For example, you see slowly the top bar was not there when I refresh the page, and you can see slowly it is coming back up here. See that? You can understand that how the application is slowly loading up. It gives you some graphs and all if you want to really understand it, you can, but it's not really useful for us. When we do a performance testing, we do it in a different level altogether. We use a separate tool like JMeter, like Gatling, those kind of things. This is a very, snapshot of the web page you can think of. Let's go to memory. In the memory, basically what you have is that if this application is, holding some cookies or something like that, those things can be found in the memories part. Okay, memory information will give you those information. Welcome. I think that's the generic page. Network conditions. Okay. Network condition is a page where I can control the way this page is getting loaded. If I say slow 3G, and if I refresh this page, it will say a page is taking way more time to load than in the default settings. Okay, so slow 3G is this. Let's go down to things like application. Okay, sorry, this is the place where you see the cookies as well. For example, I have for this particular page, I have these many cookies. For Google Ads, I have 2 cookies. For Google, I have so many cookies, right? These are the cookies. I know you. I think you understand what our cookies are. Cookies are basically temporary information stored in your browser so that the application can take some information from those pre-existing information. Some information that you want to quickly show it to the user, which you don't really need to go into the database and fetch some of the basic information, right? That is not really going to be harmful if somebody even looks into it. Those kind of information can be there as a part of cookies and stored inside the browser. And that is the part I'm trying to show you here. Okay. Again, not really important for us as a developer. I mean, test case automation tester, right? A few more things. Network is very important in terms of API testing. However, we can skip this for now. Okay. From API testing perspective, it is very, very important. We have to understand how the APIs are connecting, or how the APIs are working. Those kind of things we will have to check on them, but in a later stage, right? Not right now. That's pretty much that we have in the console part. Mostly in terms of automation testing of the UI, we will be working on the Elements tab only, mostly. So that is that. Let's move on to the next part. And over here, then we can talk about things like, okay, things like creating a basic automation test case, so that you can get some understanding. Once we are done with that, let's go to HTML component. Okay, that is this. Conditional statements, constructors, and okay, we'll see how much I can cover that. Okay, so let's go and try to create a simple automated test. I will go to, let's go to Amazon. Okay, let's try to create a basic test on this, where I come to this page, I search for some kind of an information. Let me actually see some things, which would be easier for us to relate later on. Okay, select values there then. Good. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a few tags and the way I'm going to automate this. You will see. When I open the page for the first time, I will see this particular page here. Okay, not this page, my bad. Not this page. Let me actually open this up in the incognito mode. That's where I'll know it better, So when I open the page for the first time, I see this section at the bottom. It says accept cookies or customize cookies. I'll say accept cookies. So let me get the inspector, inspect it. And that's the input ID SPCC accept. Okay, I'll copy this. And let me create my things, right? So driver.get.amazon.co.uk, that's fine. Here I can say driver.find element by dot ID. Is that an ID? That's an ID. By dot ID. And over here, I can very easily say dot click. Okay. Now, you must be little bit confused about the matter that how this line was constructed. I have not shown this to you before. So you should be really concerned, because so far what I have shown you is that you can create an object of a particular class and you can call a method with that object with a dot operator. I showed you that. Okay. Create an object, call the method. But how did I create a line like this is what we have to understand as well. It has nothing to do with Selenium Webdriver. It's purely Java. But we have to understand how it is working. What we will do is we will break this line into multiple different sections so that we can really understand it better. Okay, it's very important that we understand this. First and foremost, what is driver? Ahmed, can you tell me what is driver? You're mute if you're talking, Ahmed. What is driver?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Driver is one of applications that work with the system to locate the certain tools. That's what I can, as much as I don't understand it.
No, your understanding is not right.
Okay.
Tell me tell me what is driver from Java perspective. From Java perspective, what is driver? Like exactly this part over here that I'm highlighting. What exactly is this? From Java perspective, nothing to do with Selenium. From Java perspective, what is it?
That is the mean of I don't know. This is not the body of the. I can't remember the name, because that's where the.
Okay, I just wrote this line here, right? Line number 14. From this line, what can you think of? What exactly is driver? Chrome driver equals new Chrome driver, right? So in that case, I'm asking you, what is this guy here? What is it? I explained this in detail last week. What is driver?
I don't understand. I don't know.
Ahmed, how much time are you spending after the class?
What do you say?
How much time are you spending after the class?
In fairness, my schedule have really changed because I didn't really have much to study on it unless of my off day, because I've been moving from where I don't want to be complaining about it, but it's something that I'm facing. I can't really go. I thought it would be very easy for me to take machine to work to be able to read, but it doesn't work out with the colleague that we are working together. So the only time is when I come back and just do some little that I could, watching the previous videos and see the thing that I can do.
Okay.
Because I can't be able, you know, the guy that work together doesn't really accommodate the way I thought it would be. So I didn't find it easy to deal with him. So I can't be able to use the machine with him and do the necessary thing.
Okay.
But I cannot blame on him because we are there to work. But I thought it would be very easy for it to be very
No,
understanding.
I was very clear from the day one. It is never easy unless you push
But
it
I
hard.
thought it will understand me, but it doesn't. It doesn't
Okay.
understand it the way I thought it will. But I didn't really, because anything that I learn at home is what I just rely on. It doesn't give the room for the way I think it will. But I can't blame him.
That's fine. Okay, please put some more time into it.
Well,
Let's say Bongi. Bongi, what exactly is this driver?
It's an instance of.
From Java perspective, I'm not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
A driver.
Yeah,
I would say it's an instance.
exactly. That's all I'm trying to hear. It's an instance of Chrome driver class, as simple as that. So very good. That's an instance. Instance of Chrome driver class. Very good, Bongi. Thank you so much. So that's that. Next. What is find element? I don't know. Ramon, can you tell me what is find element?
It's a method.
Exactly. Very good. It's a method inside Chrome driver that we are able to access. It's a method. Very good. Now, again, within find element, I passed on this entire section. This entire section. Kester, can you tell me what exactly is this? I can't hear you, man.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. What is this guy here? Buy.id. What exactly is this?
I would say based on the function, you're passing in the parameter. Like the
Exactly.
value.
It's a parameter, right? It's a parameter. But how do you know what parameter it accepts? If you hover your mouse,
You click on it.
if you hover your mouse on find element method, it will very clearly tell you a few things. And as a developer, we should know how to read these snippets. You can see this, it is very clear. Oh, okay. Let me do it again. Okay. You can see it very clearly. It says that find element is a method that is accepting a parameter called by parameter. It is not string. It is not integer. It is of type by. By is a class. Okay. And that type of parameter is being accepted. At the same time, it is also saying that find element is returning back a method, a web element object. So the first thing that you see here at the very top is the return type of the method. So find element is a method and it is returning back web element, which is a return type of this method. Find element is having a parameter, which is by parameter. If you hover on the main method accepts a parameter, which is a string of arguments, string array of arguments, and then it returns nothing, which is why the first line is void. First word is void. Very clearly understandable. Okay. It is very easy for you to understand if you are hovering and spending a few minutes with it. Now, this is a parameter of by type. That's very good. By type parameter. by type parameter. And then within the by type parameter, so by is a class which is a static class. Now, what is static class? We'll talk about that later, but you can see the difference that I am not creating an object of by to access the ID method. You see that? I can very well access the ID method with the by class directly, by dot ID. I'm not creating the object of by to call ID method. I'm not doing that. Okay, which is why I'm saying by is a static class, and hence we can access its methods directly with the class name itself, right? And I don't need to create the object without creating an instance, without creating any instance, right? That's the by dot ID is all about. Okay. Now, if I show you this WebDriver, this entire thing that I'm highlighting right now is basically nothing but web element. This find element method returns back a web element object. So ideally, you can do something like this. You can say web element, you can do like this, web element ELE equals to this whole thing, driver. Okay. Now, web element is coming from Selenium as well, and driver.findElement by ID is basically returning back a web element object, and you can say ELE.click, ideally, right? That is exactly where the click is happening. That's exactly where the click is happening, right? We are writing this whole thing in a shortcut format, okay, where I'm saying this whole thing is web element, so I can just say dot click. I can append dot click with it. Whatever I'm trying to show you is a very usual practice that we do in programming. Okay, we can just append things together and write a big line, but you will very easily understand that how this line was built. Okay, this is how the line was built, right? So that is what I'm trying to show you. 1 minute, let me quickly cover this up. Right? So I can go and do the accept. Perfectly fine. Now, once I'm done with the accept, what is the next thing? I will be clicking on this particular guy and choose one of these options. I'm introducing you to a new tag here, and this tag is called select tag. We will talk about the select tag later also, but I don't think after today I need to cover that section because it's the same thing. The select tag is the tag. Look at, let me show you how it looks like. So look, this is how it looks like. Select tag, it has, I hope it is an ID, ID, search drop-down box, that's not a problem. So I have that. And then if you expand this, you will see option, which is the child of select tab, option, and under there are so many options, right? Each and every option is for different things, all departments, Alexa, Amazon devices, blah, 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 so many things. So basically, you have to choose any one of them out of this. Okay, so I will choose maybe, I don't know, I would say books. Okay, so how can we do that? So for that, Selenium WebDriver has given me a method already. So what I mean by that is I can then say select equals new select, and within the select itself, as the syntax that I'm trying to write here is going to be a little bit unfamiliar to you. I am going to pass on something between these two brackets. Okay, it is called as constructors. I will discuss about them later on, maybe today or maybe tomorrow or maybe next week. But constructor is very important for us to understand. So I'm going to pass some information over here. So basically what I'll be passing is a web element. So let me create a web element now. Web element select option equals to driver.findElement by.id. Correct? And then as a part of that, I go and I can just say the ID is nothing but search dropdown. Got it? That's my simple web element, which is the select web element that I'm trying to work with. Correct? Once I have this here, then let me import web element, and then I'll say select option, this guy, I'll pass it on over here. Okay, this thing that I did right now is basically saying setting or passing parameter to constructor, passing web element as a parameter to select constructor. Okay, this is exactly what I did right now. However, I will explain that to you in a much greater detail. You know, when I talk about constructor, what is constructor? You really have to understand that so that you can make sense to you. Okay, so that is constructor. Let's go and try to click on or choose a particular value. So select by visible text. That's a method I have. There are multiple different methods I have. You see, I have select by value, select by index. So when I say value, if you look at it, there is a value attribute, right? And the value attribute looks like this. Search alias equals Alexa skills. Search alias equals Amazon devices, like so. These are the values. And index nothing but 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, like so, right? So I'm not selecting by any of those. I'm selecting by the visible text. And the visible text that I'm trying to look for is, I think that's books. Let me expand that. Let me say books. So that is this guy. Okay, simple scenario. Once I'm done with that, so it will be books. Let's see how application reacts to that. I'll go and say books. Okay, and now it is asking me. So you see, the rest of the page is kind of dark, asking me to find some information here. So I don't know. I'll say something about motivational, like so. Okay, and I'll say search, and it gives us some information about motivational books, like this. Okay, So to enter the text over here, okay, I can get the XPath of this, inspect. It is 2 tab search text box. That's really good. I'll copy this and I'll go and say driver dot find element by dot ID. It has an ID as well. So dot send keys. Okay. And what's the keys? Let's say motivational or gym motivation. Something like that. Okay. And then what we can do is we can say that I want to click on the go button here, which is right here. Input ID nav search submit button. That's perfect. We go and do the same thing. Driver.find element by dot ID. Dot click. That should take care of those things, right? And let's go and run it. No errors. Let's run this and let's see how that works. As you can see, the application was launched. This is here. I can make some things changed. I mean, I can make this window go bigger by doing like so. Driver dot manage dot window dot say maximize. If I do that, it will open up in a bigger screen. I can see a basic scenario was created, right? A basic scenario was created. That's how you write a basic scenario, but things will go way more challenging, complicated, those kind of things. Okay. Any questions up till now?
I don't have a question, but I think the pace is a bit fast because we don't get a chance to work with you.
I didn't understand what you mean. Sorry.
Like while you're typing, I don't get a chance to finish before you start running the test, so I can run into many issues at the same time. Like the pace is a bit fast.
You will not be able to match up with my speed, and that is not the idea, Kester. I don't want you to write these things right now along with me. I want you to completely concentrate in the implementation I'm doing, the logic that I'm teaching you. These videos are anywhere recorded, and you can go and look into it later on, and then you can do it in your pace. You can pause and do it in your pace. But then right now, just be focused in asking questions and learning the skills with me, okay? You cannot do 2 things at the same time. It will be very confusing and tough, you know? Any questions from anybody else? Afi, any questions?
No
Afi,
questions for now. No questions.
okay. Steve, are you good?
Yeah, morning, Savik. Yeah, I'm good.
Very good. Morning. Good stuff. So that is that with the writing basic stuff with Selenium Webdriver. Let's move on to the next part. Okay.
Although, well, actually, I do have one question, Savik.
Yeah, no problem.
So I guess in future, I guess as far as I know, we've been using Chrome driver, but also each browser has its own set of drivers.
Right.
Firefox driver.
So I will be creating some kind of a system a separate utility file where as soon as you say, I want to launch Chrome, it will launch Chrome. You say Firefox, it will launch Firefox. So I will be implementing those things as a part of the framework implementation. And that is a very basic requirement. You must be providing those kind of features so that you can create a framework like that, which will let users run their test case in any desired browser. And yes, I will definitely create something like that. So,
All right, thanks.
yeah. So then let's move on to the next part. And what is that? Okay, this part is done. Let's go to class 8. Class 8. And let's try to understand what we have here. Okay. Let's see how much I can cover. If else, access specifier, Java methods, I think we have already discovered that a little bit. Oops principle, inheritance. I don't think I can cover so many of this today in 1 hour. I'll see. So if else and nested if else. Okay. This is something that you have to understand. Sorry. You have to understand so that you can create some conditional logics. All right. So just give me 1 second. Hold on. Yeah. So you can get some conditional logics created. All right. So what do I mean by if else and nested if else? Let me create a new package, and Java test. Right. I have already given you the examples in the video, but let me just cover it up again. If else or conditional statements, right? With the main method. Okay. So now what we have is an integer, int a equals 30, b equals 40. Sorry, my bad. Int b equals 40. Int c equals 50. Right? So when I say conditional statements and nested if else, we can do something like this. We can say if, right? A greater than B. And I think I have given this example to you earlier, but let me do that again. And it's a logical operator. I told you that. And A greater than C. A greater than C. Then we can say A is greatest. This out. A is greatest. 30A plus is greatest. Like so. Now you see, I say else if. This is the nested if else. You're doing else if. Generally, else can if can condition can have if, and then there's a else. We can have it like this. Okay. Or we can just write if only statement. Just if statement. If this condition is satisfying, then it will print out this line. Else this condition will not, if it's not evaluated, then nothing will happen, right? Nothing will be printed. That is the if else statement or if statement, just the if statement. Okay. You can just keep the if statement on its own. You cannot have an else statement on its own. else something on its own. You cannot have this. Okay, you can keep an if statement on its own, but not an else statement. Simple as that. And if you want, you can have a if and just else. So if this condition is not satisfied, then this condition will be triggered. Or you can have a nested if else saying if again, and then you can put another condition here saying if B is greater than A, B greater than A, and B greater than C, then you want to say B is greatest. Like so. And if this condition is also failing, then at the end of the day, you can just say else C is greatest. You can very well see that it's a nested if else condition. This will be evaluated if it is false. This will be evaluated if it is false, then this will be printed. Simple, right? With from this line, if I run this now, run as Java application, 50 is greatest. That's perfectly fine. Okay, this is the if else condition. I also remember showing you that in if else condition, each and every section of this if else are individually evaluated. I showed you this very clearly. So it kind of goes step by step. From here, if it is false, then it goes in here. If it is false, then it goes in here. Like a step by step manner. However, when I talk about switch case, things are a little different. For example, let's give a name, string name, and the name is Sobek. Okay, and this is my normal variable. I can create a switch case like this. I can create a switch case like this. Yeah, I create a switch case like this where I can say switch name dot to lowercase. Okay, so whatever the names are coming, in whichever the case it is coming, I'm converting that to a lowercase, and then I'm saying if it is Sovic, then sys out, then sys out. Come on. What happened with this guy? Case, I missed that. That's why. Sys out, right? And here you say computer engineer, right? I'm just trying to list down the occupation. If it is case George, then it is right? I don't know. Civil engineer. Okay. If it is Mary, then it is nurse maybe, or maybe mechanical engineer. Okay, good. Now the point is that switch case works in a different way. In switch case, it will not be checking each and every case like it happened with if else. In switch case, if I convert this to George, and if I debug this program, you will see that from this line, it directly comes to line number 25. It didn't even bother to stop here. And it will print out this line. So it did. Civil engineer. And then it has a bad habit, like switch case, it has a bad habit that as soon as one case matches, if there are any other cases after that, it will also try to trigger them. So you see, it triggered for George and Mary both. It didn't trigger for Solvik. Okay, so that's a bad habit with switch case. It can be fixed by adding a break statement, break, like this. Okay, and in that situation, if you run this, restart, it will just be printing out only civil engineer and the execution stops. So it is a little bit faster because it's not really evaluating each and every condition. But on the other hand, you have to also understand that in switch case, you really cannot deal with conditions like these ones, like A greater than B and A greater than C, and then else if. That kind of thing will never be a use case for a switch case. There are different things for different usage, right? So switch case has a typical usage that I showed you. That is that. Let's move on to the next part. If you don't have any questions, please stop me. If you have a question, please stop me. If not, let's move on. Access specifier. What exactly is access specifier? A very important concept you have to understand. Access specifier, you have seen me using it multiple times in last 3 classes. Everywhere I create something like public static, all right? I create things like, yeah, mostly publics. I've created things like publics, mostly of them, right? So we are trying to understand what is an access specifier. So let's create a file. Or you know what? Let's copy things from previous stuff. We have this test garage, right? Good. So I'll copy this. I will paste it here again. Test garage, okay? In the car, I have these guys. Controller, I have, okay, garage, I have these guys. Now you see something that all these attributes that I declared earlier, I didn't really specify any value or any access specifier for them. I didn't specify any access specifier for them. So when you don't specify any access specifier for your components, whether it's a method or a constructor or an attribute, it gets the default value of, or it is a default access of what? Default type. Default access type. Default access type. If I give it this as private, this means it is private to the current class only. This guy over attribute over here is private to the current class only. Nobody else can access this guy beyond this particular class. If you give public, then you will make this element publicly available, meaning everybody, every project can access this component, okay, this entity. And then protected, I will talk about that in a while, okay? But for now, just see the difference between default, a private, and a public. Private is private, and which is why you see in the current class, I don't have any problem to access the the entity model. However, in the controller class, this guy is complaining. Mazda.model is not visible, clearly saying the field car.model is not visible. It's clearly saying, right? Which means what? Which means that this is not visible anymore, right? So if an element is not visible anymore, then how do you access it? The idea is you don't access it directly. You don't access it directly. So there's a theory behind it which you have to really understand, try to understand. So think about it. I have a different color. I have a Java class and I have listed down my attributes. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have multiple methods. Right? These methods are using these attributes as well. Now, the point is that if I make these attributes public, okay, if I make this public, and if you create an instance of this class, maybe this class name is planes, okay? If you create an object of planes, plane equals new planes. If you create an object of this planes now, you ideally can do anything with that situation, with that instance of planes. You can say dot plane, these attributes which were having some value, maybe there's a value over here called planes dot, I don't know, what do they have? Maybe rotor type or something like that, or twin engine maybe, or engine type, something like that. You can say engine. So engine type, right? This is a string value. Engine type is a string value, right? You can tamper with this value. You can say, I mean, maybe not knowingly, but unknowingly, if you just set this value of engine type to null, then whatever the value it was actually having earlier will be overwritten by the value null, which is a bad practice. It's actually a bad practice to keep your attributes publicly available, because attributes are the main guys which are actually holding the data. A method is nothing. Method is like you're performing some actions. Okay, I understand that. But then performing actions based on the actual values your attributes are holding, you have to understand that part. So by any means, if you are, knowingly or unknowingly tampering these values, then the method in output will be accordingly impacting that situation, right? You don't want to do that. You don't want to keep these attributes public so that anybody can create an object of planes and do some nonsense with it. That is not what is required or is the idea. Therefore, the idea is make these attributes private, and these attributes will be accessible by the corresponding methods. Correct? Methods. You can call these methods from the outer world, like planes.method1, method2, and they will perform the job. If you want to set these values inside this parameter, you have to anyway set the value inside these parameters, right? You can do that with the help of something that we will be learning and it's called constructors, and that's the right way of doing things. Constructors. Okay, we will learn the exact way of doing things, how to use constructor in the right way, so that you don't fall into this kind of situation ever, knowingly or unknowingly. This kind of thing will never occur with the constructor. Okay, why it will not happen, I will explain that later on. But for now, this is the situation. So if I make them all private, if I take you to the car, and because it is private, or if I make everything private, for example, private, then somebody has to make sure to put the value inside these, right? What you can do is, one other way people will do this is using setters and getters. Okay, so basically some stupid methods, I don't really like that. If you select all of them, and if you say source, and then if you say generate setters and getters, and just select all of them, and just say public, yeah, that's fine, and generate. So if you do that, you will see you just created some methods, a lot of them. Let me copy it in here, got it. Okay. And I'll just paste it here. And let's go on. Okay, some methods got created. What are these methods? It's basically nothing but, you see, set brand and get brand. You can put the value of the brand over here, and that value will be set to this brand variable, or you can do the get brand, and if you click on call this method called get brand, it will return the updated value. That is all setter and getter is doing. It's not really a rocket science. It's very, very simple. However, if you ask me that whether it is really tackling this problem or not, no, it is not tackling this problem, because I have a set method. Anybody can call set method and perform some stupid operation, right? It is not really tackling this value, this situation. To tackle this exact situation, you have to understand what this constructor is, right? Which I will talk about later on. Now, for now, to handle this, because I'm having error everywhere. Wait a minute, why don't I have? Because it is not private. Okay. Now, if you go in here, what you can do is you can very well say Mazda dot set brand. Look, it looks a little bit fancier, but not really solving the problem I was talking about. So set model, right? Mazda dot set engine. Set seats, right? And you can just copy things over here. .2 and 5, correct? And that's how you can create your, sorry about that. That's how you can create your Mazda objects, correct? And it will exactly work the way it worked otherwise, right? So that is an access specifier in terms of private. Public, I told you, if you make it public, anybody can access it. No problem with that. Let me talk about default. What is default and how it is important? So I will make one of these variable as a default. Look. But here. So I'm going to make one of these variable as default. Okay, like seats. Or just remove everything so it becomes default, right? If you go back here, you have created a method called set seats, but you can also do this. You can also say Mazda dot set seats because it's default. I can access it. Seats equals 5. I can do that as well. Correct? It is default in nature. Let me clear out everything else that I have here. The entire stuff. Okay, that is done as well. Next, what? Next, you see that the car class and the controller class, they are in the same package, test garage package, both of them. If I move my car class from test garage to Java test, immediately controller class will complain saying, I am not able to access the default element. It is not visible anymore. So what did we learn from that? We just learned that if you are trying to access a default element from one class to the other class, those two classes needs to be in the same package. That's what we learned from this. Okay. One more time, recap. Public can be accessed from anywhere, any package, anything else, any class to any class. No problem. Privates will be only accessible within the class. Default elements can be accessible within 2 or more classes if those classes are in the same package. If it is not, then it will not be able to access. Okay. And then protected is entirely different, which needs you to, for that, you need to understand what is inheritance in Java, and which I will talk about that next week. Okay. So now let's see about Java methods. I have covered that earlier. Inheritance is something that I will take some time to explain. I don't think that we can explain that easily in today's class because there are a lot of questions that will be coming in along with it. So I believe that I can end my class today here. If you have any questions, I can answer them. And then I will talk about inheritance. You know what? I will not enable week number 4. This is XPath. XPath is something that I think we should learn, we all should learn together. Let me cover up week number 3, whatever is left out next week, constructors and everything else, because these things are a little bit time consuming to discuss, especially runtime polymorphism, okay, and absolute XPath strategies. So once we are done with that in the next week, then I think we should go for week number 4, which means that I will not enable week number 4 right now. And we will discuss about week number 3 once again in the next week class. Is that okay for everyone? Okay. Okay. Afi, are you okay with that? Kester, Steve?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. Very good. So please put, yeah, go on, Kester, go on.
No, that's it.
Okay, so this week, just put some more time in watching the week 3 videos. Try to come prepared with the questions. I will anyway walk you through the all topics, and then we will see. Okay. So that's it for today, guys. If you don't have a question, then
When you are applying for a job, some of the companies say that you have a budget of 2,000.
I'm not able to hear anything, Pastor. Your voice is very.
If you are everything, we do it for you. It's just that you guys already have like.
No, man. Is it a problem with only me or for others as well?
That stuff like that. What? What's up?
Are you talking to me, Pastor?
Oh,
Yeah, he sounded distorted to me as well.
no,
Yeah.
sorry. No. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear now.
No, I'm not talking to you. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. That's fine. No problem at all. That's fine. So then that's it for today. Let us come back tomorrow, next week, and then we'll continue from here again. Steve, any
Savik,
question? Yeah, go on.
I do have a question for you.
Please go on.
I'd asked this actually in the Slack channel earlier this week, but it was regarding the 2 assignments for class 7, which addresses test cases, which as I continue watching the class videos for 8, 9, and 10, I think those are starting to go over in the classes 9 or 10. At first, I wasn't sure if we were supposed to answer those in a Word document or actually type the code in Eclipse. And I think I've concluded you type the code in Eclipse, but I think you're still going over some of that in class 10 video.
Mhm.
But I just thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah, it is all in code. Yes, absolutely. And you are talking about class 7 assignment or which one?
Right. The two assignments there for class 7.
Absolutely in Eclipse. It has to be executable. Okay. One other thing I want to let you guys know that if you, for example, you're looking at this Expedia, right? Verify title of the page, click on the search button, verify if all errors are displayed, right? If something changes, for example, if it is not named, if it's not named as search button anymore, if it is it is named as go button, it can be changed. These applications I'm not controlling, right? So please do not stop. If you are seeing that it is not search button, it's a go button, then click on the go button and verify things. Okay, because when I created this assignments, and from then to now, things have changed. So please consider those things. Like in Wisdom QA, things will not be changing because I control that and it will not be changing. But other applications that I have given to you, and then when you watch the videos, right? The XPaths that you see me creating in the video, please do not try to think that the same XPath will work even now, because it will not. The application has changed. You have to understand that concept that I'm trying to show you there and create your own XPath. And anyway, when you come in the live class, you come to me with questions that, Savik, these buttons, these links, this input box, I was not able to find the XPath, find it for me. And then I will do that in the live class. But then don't think that the same XPath that I showed you in the video will work here, because it will not work here, as simple as that. Okay. So that's the case. Let's come back next week and we will continue from here. Okay, guys. Thank you. If you don't have any questions, then we can close the class.
Okay,
All right,
thanks,
Savik.
Thank
All right,
you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. Take care.